some time ago, Bossman over here
Me, hello.
sent a message in Slack that read,
So what is DevOps anyway?
and we thought it's finally time to attempt to explain the nebulous field that is sort of
We should
emerged.
clarify that you and Matchster are both DevOps.
Yeah.
Engineer, I don't know your job title. You're both
Those who
DevOps
aren't
of
aware.
some description.
We
Yes.
are DevOps professionals.
For context, I am an audiovisual specialist, so DevOps is over my
I'm a
head.
digital coordinator.
So-
Hello.
I'm a student.
So, back in the day, this all starts. So, suppose you run a software company that makes software, and in exchange for people giving you money, you give them access to your software over the internet. The sort of software as a service model. In the team, in your company, you traditionally have two teams, at least. There's a lot more, but these are the two that we will focus on today are development and operations. Development are the team that make your software, that add new features to it based on user requests, while operations are the people who keep the lights on. When the servers crash, they fix them. They generally also handle things like deploying the software, configuring it, scaling up when you simply do not have the capacity for the current number of customers you have. When you think about it, the aims and objectives of these two teams, or rather the desires of these two teams, are somewhat at odds with each other, because development want to have the freedom to do whatever they want, because they will come up with some wild idea for a feature, or the product team will come up with some wild idea for a feature, but anyway, and they will want to implement it however they want, however it makes it easiest for them. And so they want ultimate flexibility to adapt how their software is deployed. Operations, on the other hand, in a perfect world, nothing would change ever because it works, and if you change things, you risk breaking things.
It's my laptop. That's why I do my laptop. I don't touch it in case it breaks.
But scale that up to a software business, because every time you introduce change, you introduce the possibility of things breaking, and if things break in the middle of the night, somebody will have to pick up the phone and fix it, and you bet it's probably not going to be development. So these two teams that have to work closely together in order to bring software to the masses, because development need operations support in order to deploy the software and keep it running, while operations cannot just do everything by themselves because there is no software for them to deploy. Yet, these two mindsets are somewhat at odds with each other. So then you get into the practice of development operations, or DevOps for short, which is the sort of aim to, as much as possible, merge the mindsets of these, so to approach operations from a software development perspective, which means things like giving development teams more ownership of how their software is deployed to a point. So, for instance, one of the technologies that very much come into, it's not intrinsically tied to DevOps, but has become a very popular in the DevOps mindset, is containers. Because before containers, you would essentially have a bunch of source code that you drop on a server, probably compile in some form, and run it. And every application was done differently, meaning that the operations team would have to have a bespoke setup for deploying each applications. But much as shipping containers unified the shipping world in that you would no longer needed different equipment to carry every different type of load that could be placed on a ship, all you need is the ability to transport and move and sort containers.
That's actually a really good analogy.
Why do you think they're called that?
Yeah, I've only just clocked that.
Yes, the idea being that rather than having a bespoke setup for everything that could possibly be carried, you just put everything in a container that's the exact same size, no matter what's in it, and then you can have hundreds of them on a ship. In the same way as for software, you put it in a container which has everything that that software needs to run, and then it can be deployed on any system that supports that type of container.
Yeah, which a lot of them support the same thing.
OCI containers.
Exactly.
That's one of the things that's sort of come out of... That's one of the practices that's become very commonly adopted in the DevOps world. Another one that's sort of had a great focus in is the idea of infrastructure as code. You know what I mentioned earlier about bringing software development mindset to operations? Well, what if instead of every single server that runs your software being bespokely configured by hand with combinations of shell scripts and elbow grease. You treated it as code. So say I wanted to add a new server to my fleet. I could just write some code that says, I would like a server. And then you run it in some form and you get a server. And then if you need to change the configuration for it, you just edit that code, run it again, and that server's configuration changes. Meaning, not only do you get more empowerment for people to make changes to the environment that the software runs on, but also you get all the benefits of source control for infrastructure. Because if an infrastructure change is made and turns out to be duff for whatever reason, you can find it in your source control platform of choice, revert it, and then deploy, hopefully, a fixed version.
Right, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So it's these sorts of things. I've only given 2 examples. The world of DevOps is a lot broader than that.
Yes.
In short, it is, what if software developers, but make them sysadmins? Or what if sysadmins, but make them software developers? ¿Por qué no los dos?
So, Jamie, you ready for the pop
Non-Espanol.
quiz?
Sorry?
You ready for the quiz?
Yeah, welcome to PowerPoint night.
There's one slide.